I've only been taking video seriously for about 18 months, and yet I charge £1,000 a day to shoot. That's about $1,400. That might sound ridiculous, and honestly, sometimes it still feels it. But it works and clients book me. This episode isn't about justifying that number, it's about how I got to it. I'll break down exactly how I work out my rates, why I think they're fair, and how I managed to make a living doing this without burning out, or even worse, building an agency. In this line of work, pricing can often be a bit murky and opaque, so I really want to help make it tangible and hopefully give you some confidence to price your own work in a way that feels earned and sustainable. Brits are notoriously bashful when it comes to talking about money, but hopefully my experience in the small business world will help assuage those nerves. But if you see me drop down, you'll know I couldn't hack it. Let's start with the basic numbers. My baseline day rate for on-location production is £1,000 a day. Like I said, that's about $1,400. For pre-production or research, it's £800 a day, and editing days or post-production is also £800 a day. Travel days are charged at half of my lower rate, so that's £400 a day, and on top of that, I'll charge 45 pence per mile driven if I'm using my own vehicle. That's it. No faff. As I've mentioned before, I'm a huge advocate for simple pricing. These rates include everything I need to get the job done. I own all my own gear. If a client wants me to shoot on an Alexa or a V-Raptor, we'll hire it in and there'll be an additional cost. But otherwise, the equipment I own is part of the service. It's the same reason I don't send itemized invoices listing individual bits of gear. I wouldn't expect a carpenter to bill me for using a saw. I just want them to build the thing properly. Clients feel the same. I'm aware, however, there are a few different approaches for how to handle billing for kit. I like to incorporate it into my day rate, but if you've got an improvement on that, or just want to let me know what you do, stick it in the comments. I'd love to read it. A lot of newer filmmakers, newer even than me, underquote post-production. They tend to think in terms of shoot days, but I've found that most projects sort of have somewhere between a 1-to-1 or a 3-to-1 edit to shoot days ratio, especially when you factor in revisions, versioning, export time, and deliverables. So when I quote, I try to realistically estimate the full timeline. If I shoot for, say, 2 days and I know there's a brand film plus social cuts, I'll usually quote for 2 to 4 days of post. It helps protect your time, and it gives the client a more honest picture of the total cost, no surprises and no chasing around for extra. I also account for comms time. Emails, project calls, small admin tasks all take up my bandwidth. So even if I'm not at the timeline cutting clips, I'm still working for that client. Pricing in a way that accounts for these little extras means that I don't resent the hours that vanish into these logistics. It definitely took me a while to get this balance right. Early on, I found myself doing way more in post than I'd budgeted for, and that turns what should be a healthy project into a total time sink. Now I err slightly on the cautious side. If a client gets a tidy edit done in fewer days than I budgeted, everyone's happy, and it often gives us breathing room for polish. There's also the versioning spiral, which every editor has experienced at least once. A client loves the first draft, but suddenly they want square crops, a version with and without music. They want you to pull maybe 4 extra 15-second reels and subtitles in 2 languages, and all that stuff takes time. So now I make that visible in the quote from the start as best as possible, and it helps to avoid me getting revision fatigue. And when things do run over, I flag it, and I explain why. Plus, I'm usually happy to eat a little extra time, but not always. If there's scope creep, I'll suggest a fair adjustment, but because I've been upfront from the start, most clients are normally happy to pay. Like I mentioned at the top, I've only really been making videos for money for about 3 years, and it's only in the last 18 months that I've really started to take it seriously like a proper business. So how exactly did I get to charging £1,000 a day? I think it's partly because of what I was doing before. I spent most of my working life at the executive level in hospitality, leading teams, running businesses, managing events, and that sort of experience has helped way more than I expected. I know how to talk to clients, I know how to manage expectations, I know how to problem solve. Also, I know how to keep morale high on long days, because I have plenty of long days. And all of that shows up in how I quote. It shows up in how I communicate, and it shows up in how I handle a location. And clients notice it. I think it's probably the first thing they notice, in fact. Hospitality also taught me pacing. Reading a room, making people feel looked after. When you're filming in someone's home or with their staff, or in a boat in sideways rain, those soft skills are often more important than having the latest Cine Prime set. So even though I don't have a traditional film school background or 10 years on set, I do have plenty of valuable experience, and you will too. If you've built that in another industry, it's still valid and it still counts. These days, I'm lucky enough to be able to be quite selective. I don't work with everybody. I try and find clients where my price point actually makes sense. Usually they're considering going to a studio, but maybe that's out of reach, or maybe they want more flexibility. So if I can get them 80 to 90% of the way towards a studio level result at a much more manageable price, then I'm very good value. And I'm not just talking about image quality, though that's part of it, but a big piece is project management. I'm not bringing a crew of 5 and I'm not spending a week in pre-production, but I am showing up prepped, decisive, agile and able to adapt, and that's often critical. And the clients I enjoy working with the most tend to value that blend. Strong results without the full production apparatus. Though mostly they've not worked with agencies before, but for the few that have, it's been overkill. Big teams, slow comms, inflated costs. I offer a more nimble alternative. And my name's Jack. And I don't pitch that as lesser, obviously. I pitch it as more focused. I don't try to compete with the £300 a day crowd. I don't pitch the huge agencies either. I'm sitting in that middle ground, and it's a good place to be. One last point I'd like to make about my rate in particular. When you're charging £1,000 a day, like I said, nearly $1,400, if the client wants you on site at 5 AM, you totally don't mind. And if the shoot day turns out to be 11 hours instead of 9, that's no big deal. If my rate was, say, $750 a day, I might be a little less relaxed about that kind of thing, but because it's the price that it is, I can definitely afford to be chilled. I don't negotiate on my rates, and that's not out of arrogance, it's more out of sustainability. I only want to be working for the price I believe is appropriate. If a client can't stretch to that, I don't take it personally, it just means we're not a good fit for each other at that moment in time. That said, I do sometimes help them revise the whole scope of a project so that we can still work together. That might mean fewer shoot days or a leaner edit with less deliverables, but it means we can stay within their budget and my rates stay intact. Often that makes for a cleaner, sharper project anyway, more focus and fewer distractions. And by being transparent about costs early on, it avoids those awkward last-minute negotiations that leave everyone feeling slightly shortchanged. It's respectful both ways, and that means when I do take on a job, I know it's the right fit. And no, I don't turn every inquiry into a job, but I'm okay with that. And here's the thing, when you know you're not going to barter, it makes quoting quicker. You're not second-guessing what they might come back with, you're not leaving space for negotiation in your head, you just say the price and trust it. And that frees up a surprising amount of mental energy. This is probably the most important bit. When a client books me, they're not just paying for a finished video, they're paying for clear communication, realistic timelines, flexible problem solving, smooth set experience, reassurance when something goes wrong, all the emails, calls, Teams meetings and notes they can throw a stick at. And that stuff takes time, it takes headspace, and makes the job workable. I've had jobs where we're running behind or the brief changes mid-shoot, or we're battling the weather. We're always battling the weather. My job is to take that in stride, keep the day moving, and still deliver what we promised. And the truth is, I really enjoy that part. I think I almost enjoy it as much as the filming. I like being the calm one in the room. It completely ties in with all my R&I stuff, but it's all included in my rate. Sometimes I'll get an email from a client weeks after a project is wrapped, saying something along the lines of, "That was one of the smoothest shoots we've ever done, thanks for making it easy." And that feels just as good as making brilliant work. I think it almost matters more, to me. And it serves as a reminder that the client isn't just paying for a camera operator and an outcome, they're paying for someone who's already thought through the shoot before they turn up, someone who knows how to be decisive without being rigid, someone who can problem solve when things go sideways, and who knows when to cut a shot and when to keep rolling. And that's the difference between someone who just owns a camera and someone who's a proper camera operator. Now take this with a pinch of salt, because this is in the context of me with a YouTube channel that's somewhat orientated around gear. In my experience, clients don't care about whether your camera is full frame or whether your LUTs are custom. They care about, will this person deliver something I'm proud to show my boss? Will the shoot be a nightmare or a pleasure? Will this person solve problems or bring them? And if you can show that you're reliable, thoughtful and professional, your rate will feel fair, even if it's high. And I think that people sometimes mistake confidence for entitlement, but clients can definitely feel the difference. If your price is grounded in experience and aligned with the value you bring, it will land well. You do not need to be the cheapest to get the work. I'd love to know what you charge. What's your day rate? Has it changed recently? Are you thinking of putting it up? Do clients say it's too expensive? Are you charging substantially more than I do? If so, how'd you get away with it? Pop it in the comments and just share how you approach it. I'd be really interested to know. Working for yourself means taking responsibility for the value you provide. It's not about charging the most, it's about charging well. in a way that lets you do good work without burning out. You want to price in a way that gives you the space to show up fully, without rushing, without resenting, and without second guessing. If you're still figuring out your pricing, hopefully this conversation has given you some ideas. If you've got it nailed already, even better. But let's normalize talking about this stuff, because if we don't, we're all just kind of flying blind. And I managed to talk about money without keeling over or being too embarrassed or breaking out in cold sweats. So well done me. And if you want to see some of the kit that I include in my rate, check out the last few episodes. I go deep into the Red Komodo X builds that I actually use. I'm still working out YouTube and what this channel's about, but I'm, I would say, as interested in the business side of things as I am in the gear side of things. What about you? Also, I post about this kind of thing in real time over on Instagram, so if you're happy to follow along between uploads, come and say hi. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'm Jack. Whatever it is I'm doing here, I've called Western Approaches, and I'll see you in the next one.